Welcome to Religion of Freedom. My name is Herb, and I'll be your guide for this journey down the rabbit hole. You ever wonder if mythology is real? I've read about giants and seen the pictures of strange beasts from all around the world, and I never really gave it much thought until I saw a video from Mudfossil University. And Roger, the guy who runs Mudfossil University, is the person who discovered mud fossils, and he has found giant fossilized creatures of all sorts and all sizes all around the world. He even has some of his own fossils that are of giant humans, giant animals, regular size animals, and even some non-human humanoid creatures. It's really very interesting. He also does a lot of stuff that pertains to light, matter, and biology, and he compares a lot of the stone structures that we see, rock formations, to biology, because he says that it's all biology, and I believe him. I'm not here to prove or disprove Roger's work or anybody else's, but I do want to give him credit for sending me down this rabbit hole here and leading me to discover something that I think is very intriguing, and I think you will too. So Roger shows, among very many other things, he shows these dragons around the world. He shows this one over in the Sahara Desert, along with a giant fish, looks like, and he shows a dragon, two dragons in North America. They're all a little bit different looking from each other, but they all have the attributes of dragons, it seems. Roger even found out the name of the East Coast dragon, and his name is Quetzalcoatl. And this is what led me to uncovering the whole story of the creation myth of the United States, or the North American continent. But I didn't find it right away. What I did find right away was this mermaid. And I searched everywhere to see if anyone else was really looking at the mermaid, and I found a guy named Ramakrishnan Selvaraj, and he was talking about the mermaid, pointing out the face, the hair, the breasts, and everything, but he was attributing her having legs and feet at the bottom, which I really think that she has a tail, which is obviously down there at Panama, but I'm not here to really argue with people about their work. I do commend them for what work he does. He shows a lot of really great stuff, and he is one of the few people that actually have pointed her out. There was a girl on YouTube that I found, I can't remember her name now, that she did point out the mermaid, but that's the only person. Everybody else that has really pointed out anything on the structure isn't really calling her a mermaid, but I think she is. One of the first things that told me that she was a giant for sure was, I thought that if that's her breast there, then it should be really salty, and so wouldn't it make sense that Salt Lake would be on her breast? And I looked on Google Earth, and there it is right there. And you can even see in the water, underwater, the outline of her areola there. So that was pretty convincing. And then I thought, well, are there any salt mines there? And of course there is a salt mine down at the lower part of her breast there, in Redmond, and it is called the Real Salt Mine. And I have a suspicion that maybe the whole state, once you get down past the skin there, is salt in there. And maybe there's a way that we can figure that out. Maybe we can DNA test the salt. Maybe we can get the guy to to participate. I'm not really sure if he knows what's going on and what he's digging into, but that was my first major clue that clued me in, hey, this is a real giant, and kind of gave me some hope to keep looking. Now, one of the important things to know about giants is that their blood is where all of our gold and metals come from. Their blood had gold in it. And Roger talks about this, and if you look it up, the Egyptians talked about it, and the Greeks talked about it. They said that the gods bled gold. Another interesting fact is that iron comes from a mineral called hematite, and hema is a term used to describe iron that only comes from the bones or blood of animals. So that means if you're mining something somewhere out of the ground, then the ground must be an animal, right? So what this led me to is the Grand Canyon, because obviously where the Grand Canyon is, there is a big open wound on her side, and all her guts are hanging out, and there would have been blood everywhere. There should have been gold everywhere, and in my opinion, that is the reason that the Grand Canyon looks the way it does, because it was actually just dug out from the top down to get the gold that had settled out of the veins, and that's why it looks the way it looks. There's several different aspects about that I'll go into later in other videos, but yeah, it's definitely an excavation site. Looking at the top view of it, it just looks like a vein that has been dug out of the ground. I mean, exactly like a vein. So that makes sense that it was a big vein that was holding tons and tons of gold. And if you look at gold mines in the area, there's gold all over her body, all around it, all around through there, but there are no gold mines there in that area where her guts are, because it has already been picked clean. They came in there and got that easy stuff first. One of the other things that makes me think that it was dug out by machinery or maybe hydro picks is that it's always wider at the top than it is at the bottom, and that would be so you could get the giant chunks of gold out without anything being in the way. I would think that if there was massive erosion by water and a river, that wherever it wasn't up to the tops of the walls at, it would cut in places, and you would be able to see where the river kind of widened out at the bottom, but we don't see that. So she's going to answer a lot of questions about this area. The Four Corners area, geologists have spent so much time and money trying to figure out why this area is the way it is, and it is because it is her guts. It is her intestines that were pulled out, and there was gold everywhere, and it was retrieved. So because of the salt and the gold, I thought, yeah, this probably really is a mermaid. So somebody had to have seen her, right? So I went and started searching, and the first thing I found was Sedna of the Inuit Native Americans, and they're from up north Canada, and they do describe Sedna as a giant mermaid, and they say that she was killed by her father, and that he chopped off her hands and her limbs and fingers, and they became the seals and walruses and whales. So that didn't really explain this mermaid or how she got here, but what they did explain was that the animals were in her hair. She kept the animals in her hair, and if she was not appeased, she would not release the animals. And it does make sense that after she was killed and everything settled down, there would be lots of food and shelter for the animals in her hair there. And so they would probably be thriving there. And the shaman used to take trips to there and comb her hair, so to speak, somehow symbolically or whatever. And another thing about her was that she was said to be really hungry, and she had also given birth to modern man, two types of modern man. One of them was actually part dog, part canine, and there's a whole story about that, but I thought that was interesting as well, and may be related to other stories. The Greeks have their own mermaids as well, but they don't really seem to be describing the one that we're talking about here, and I really wasn't getting anywhere with how she got killed. So I went back and looked at Quetzalcoatl, and what I found was that Quetzalcoatl and his brother Tezcatlipoca actually killed a giant sea monster and made the land out of her. And it turns out that this giant sea monster is our mermaid. Now, she was described as half fish and half human by some. The Olmec drew her with a shark-like tail. She was also described as part caiman or alligator, crocodile, and I just don't think that they had a word for mermaids, but the Aztecs did have a story about the earth goddess, the earth monster that was killed by the dragons, the hero twins, and they made the earth out of her body. This is in the legend of the fifth sun, the fifth creation, and Tezcatlipoca used his foot to bait her because she was hungry, and then they attacked her and killed her. If you look over here on Google Earth, you can see his foot, and it appears to be holding a severed digit from his other foot. And so this definitely tells me that this is Tezcatlipoca. And also, if you look at his face over here, you can see that he has lighter colored stripes going down his face. And in the Aztec description and depictions of Tezcatlipoca, he always has yellow stripes, yellow and black stripes on his face, sometimes yellow and green or yellow and red, but he always has yellow stripes. So that's a part of the description that lines up pretty well. Also, Quetzalcoatl, when you look at him on Google Earth, you can see that the shape of his eye is very similar to the shape of the eye of the Olmec dragon. And the Olmec dragon is really cool because it has a pilot inside of it, and we'll talk about that in another video, but right now we're just getting into the basic overall assumption that these are giants and this is a mermaid, and that her name is Tlachtli, and she was killed by these two dragons that we can see here, Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca. And these are all noted in the Aztec religions and the Aztec traditions, and they were descendants of people who actually saw these events happen. They saw this mermaid get killed by these dragons, and they have stories about it, and it's pretty interesting to finally be able to put all of this together and prove through geology that some mythology is really real. And so I think it's pretty awesome. I believe that she is going to answer a lot of questions in a lot of fields, including geology and history, and possibly what caused the flood and the extermination of the dinosaurs, and being the cause for the blood rituals and sacrifices and all these things that play out in several different ways. I will be discussing in further videos, and I just think that it more solidifies the story the more we add to it. Thank you for watching this far. This is my first video ever, so I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to come all the way to the end of the video with me. If you have anything to add to this theory, or any kind of information that is helpful in proving or disproving whether this is an actual mermaid or not, please feel free to provide links in the comments below, and just comment and let me know what you think about it in general. Is this a mermaid? Are these the dragons and the earth monster that the Aztecs are talking about? It is certainly something to think about. This is Herb with Religion of Freedom, and I will see you next time.